Do you know that a majority of Christians are planning not to vote this election cycle? And there's a lot of disinformation and spiritual darkness around how Christians should view this election. Joining us now is Jack Hibbs, who is a great man. I listen to him every week I can. Founder and president of the Real Life Network, senior and founding pastor of Calvary Chapel, Chino Hills, and author of Living in the Days of Deception, and a spiritual mentor of mine. Jack, great to see you, my friend.
Charlie, I love you, brother. Thanks. Thank you.
So, Jack, let's just begin with, how should Christians view politics and specifically this election?
Yeah, number one, right out of the Bible, as a sacred trust. Charlie, it's one of those things that Jesus said in a parable, that he gave one man one responsibility, another man a different responsibility, and the third man another one. Each of them had their opportunity to advance what was given to them. Jesus called them talents, not playing the piano. It's opportunity to make a difference. And he condemned the one who took the opportunity that they had and buried it under the ground or put it under a basket. So for the Christian today to say, I'm going to sit out the vote, is to actually give the vote to, for example, Kamala Harris and her anti-Israel, anti-life, anti-God's design for marriage, anti-border, anti-constitutional belief system. She'll just surrender all of that. So the Christian somehow has deluded himself, Charlie, into thinking, if I don't vote, I'm doing good. No, in the reality, you are practicing apathy, because if I can vote for Trump and block the death of one more child, look, neither one of these candidates can walk on water. Christians need to really grow up and understand that only Jesus did that, and he's the only one that can do that. We're not voting for a pope or for a priest or for a Messiah, Charlie. And I like to say this, that if Trump were to win, I get J.D. Vance, I get Vivek, I get Tulsi, I get Elon, I get a lot of people, I get RFK, I get a lot of people that's going to do really good for this nation. If I sit it out, I take my Christian, Judeo-Christian fundamental freedom of this nation, this constitutional republic, not a democracy, and I bury it. And Charlie, it's unacceptable. Every Christian who names the name of Christ should go vote, frankly, for Trump, because he's closest to a biblical worldview. He's not perfect. Nobody is. But he's the one that fits the bill best for the believer. We got to get away from emotions and get back to obedience to the Bible.
I love that, Jack. And I want to just take a pause here and say, God bless you for speaking out, because so many pastors are silent right now. Why is that, Jack? Why are they overcomplicating this? Why is it that pastors, where it's so clear that on one side you have abortion trucks at their national convention, you have Easter becoming the transgender day of awareness, you have anti-Israel, anti-Jew hatred, open borders, sex trafficking. Why are pastors failing at their task so miserably?
Charlie, the answer is too long for me to put into this entire program. I'll tell you this right now, though. Lack of fear of God, number one thing. They're not reading the Bibles for themselves. I'm talking to the pastors in America. They're not studying and reading the Bibles for themselves. So they cannot address the issues that their congregants are dealing with Monday through Friday, or even Saturday in the soccer field. The conversations they've not equipped their people to deal with at the water cooler on Monday morning. They do sermons, or as Charles Spurgeon says, they preach sermonettes for Christianettes. We've got to equip our people for the darkest age that this world and that this nation has ever seen. It is the Christian pastor that should put away his fear. And by the way, if his board or his denomination says you can't talk about this stuff, it's time to either get fired from that denomination
Bingo.
or go start a church down the street. But the hour is so late that I believe God has been so merciful that
Amen.
If the Christian doesn't get involved, the result of this election is going to be the church's engagement or not. That's going to define the results of this election.
Jack, I completely agree with that. And I want to just reiterate it, okay? Which is that the church is the counselor to the king. As the church influences or does not influence, the culture and the nation will go. And right now the church is indifferent towards the suffering of our neighbor, towards the persecution of the believer.